Hey guys, Mike with Long Range Willies here today to recap our Georgia NRL Hunter match experience. Super nice to have a Hunter match here on the East Coast, close to where we live in Alabama. Before we get into that match recap though, I want to kind of rewind to when Keely and I first started this channel. The intent was never to take the position of like, hey, look, we're pro shooters, look at how we do things, and to be held aloft as like the shining example of what right looks like when it comes to shooting. We've always taken the attitude of sharing our journey. You know, there's been so many times where we've been talking to a pro or a better shooter than us, and sometimes it's not even a better shooter than us, but other people. And we learned this little nugget of knowledge that's like, man, if I'd have known that, it would have saved me so much trouble, or to cut years off of my progression, or, you know, I would have learned reloading so much faster. So we started kind of documenting them and sharing our journeys and letting pros teach you, for lack of a better word, people that really know their stuff, subject matter experts, teach you guys, and we were just sharing it along the way. So during that, you know, we filmed a couple disaster stages where we would shoot a match when we were newer, and, you know, we would make some big mistakes, and then we would, you know, make a video out of it and show you guys, because the best way to learn is, yeah, you want to learn from your mistakes, but a better way is learning from somebody else's mistakes, so you never have to make that mistake yourself. And that's kind of why we did that. So in that vein, in that line of thinking, this match was kind of a disaster match for me right off the bat, and 99.9% of it comes down to pre-match preparation. Some very good friends of mine have a very popular podcast called Miles to Matches, Francis Cologne and Chad Heckler, and one of their catchphrases is, the match has already started. We've had these discussions hundreds of times over hours of talking on the phone with those two, and for whatever reason, I ignored that mantra, and it really just bit me in the butt. So, into the match. So, like a lot of people, we live very busy lives. We have very demanding careers, and this match kind of snuck up on us. We were kind of focused on Africa, which is the next week after this match. And we've been kind of working towards Africa and everything we're doing in Africa, and we kind of didn't prepare for this match. So in order to square away our rifles for what we're taking to Africa, I wanted to use this match as a chance to just make sure everything we're taking to Africa was good. So kind of last minute, you know, swapping some scopes around, swapping some chassis around. I got a new toy that I really wanted to try out and play with, which is the Impact 4000. For those of you guys that aren't familiar, it's a weapons mounted laser rangefinder that gives you your data and your range right there on the unit. So you can laze, it'll give you your ballistic data and everything right there. So you don't have to transition from your rifle to your binos, your Kestrel, whatever. It's all in one compact unit mounted on a diving board on top of your scope. So I wanted to try that out too. So I get everything together, and on the way down to arena, I get a phone call, and they're like, hey, can you run the firing line for 0 day? You know, because the match director's running the ROs through the stages. Yeah, sure. I love helping. I'm always going to help out a fellow match director, because as a match director, I know what it's like to be in a pinch and to need some help. So I run the 0 range firing line. I get there. I know I have a short amount of time to get my stuff squared away. So I take my rifle out. I sit at a bench in 0, which I almost never 0 from that position. Shoot 5 rounds all into the same hole. Works really great. Don't even think about it and start playing with the laser rangefinder, getting that zeroed. It took a little bit of time as I'm new to that whole process. Anyway, so then the first shooters start showing up, and Keely and I immediately go into helping Chrono, capturing that data. For those of you that aren't familiar, in the NRL Hunter, you have to have a power factor, and the way we calculate that is your bullet grain times your velocity. So everybody has to have this documented. So we get through everybody on the 0 day, and I didn't really get to shoot my rifle a lot. And that comes up later when we get into some of the failures and why they happen. So get through 0 day, start day 1. My first stage right here, very straightforward stage. I started on stage 2, and then day 1 was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. And then finishing on 1. So it's a very straightforward stage. range quickly, get my data quickly, elect to use tripod rear. Shoot the first one, really stable with that tripod rear. See the exact miss, I just bad wing call, adjusted, got the rest of my hits, no big deal. On to stage 3. Stage 3, very, very similar. Get my data pretty quick, build a position, very similar head position to the other one. But you'll notice me asked at the end of this stage, I asked the RO, like, hey, where was that miss? I dropped the shot.
Right.
And I never saw where the miss was. And what I remember is under recoil, like everything went black and I didn't see where that particular shot went at all. And I was a little confused by it, but I just attributed it to, you know, just having kind of an off day. I wasn't feeling super great. I won't say I had my A game mentally in this match, and that shows up later, and we'll get into that. Go to the next stage, stage 4, and it was these low rocks, and this is where the problem really happened. So Keely and I have the exact same XRS chassis made by MDT. We both love these chassis. The only difference between her chassis and my chassis is about 3 spacers that go in mine that she doesn't have for a shorter length of pull because she's a smaller statured person. So it didn't manifest itself totally until this stage. The stages I had shot prior, I was in a very similar head position in relation to the eye box of the scope to how I shot on 0 day with the bench. If I'd have gotten down prone or shot on any barricades or obstacles, it would have immediately become apparent that there was a problem. Well, it didn't manifest itself really till the 3rd stage of this match. As you're watching here, it's just miss after miss. In addition, on my first shot, which you'll see, I didn't dial my dope, which is just a mental mistake. Just careless, no excuse for it. There's a point gone right there. So I wasn't seeing my shots at all. I would break the shots, the scope would go black because the scope is too close to my eye at this point. And I'm just not seeing where the shots land. I ended up dropping 7 points on that stage. Just a disaster stage right off the bat. So now I'm down 9 after 3 stages. And I kind of get the impression of how this match is going to go. I think it's going to be a very high scoring match. I think the targets were hittable. I think the targets were findable. There were a few tougher stages, but I knew this wasn't one of them. And my mindset kind of creeped away from like, hey, like, you know, you're out of contention. Let's just figure out why things are wrong. And I know like the record skipped there. Francis and Chad heard that, and immediately they're going to pick up the phone and call me and be like, dude, your mental state sucks. You never give up on a match. Every point counts. You stay in it. Yes, you're right. I 100% agree. In this particular case, however, I was much more concerned with figuring out what was going wrong so I can get my stuff fixed to go to Africa. So I'm standing in the next waiting area. I'm trying to figure out why everything's not working. I'm talking to Keely and I'm like, I'm not seeing my misses. And she's like, well, what's going on? You know, what are you seeing? Have you changed anything in the rifle? And that's when the light bulb goes off that I changed chassis, and I look down and I see that I'm using her chassis. So luckily I had a spare chassis of mine at the truck and everything was really close. Run over to the truck, grab the spacers, throw them in the rifle, fix it, shoot this next stage, clean run, saw every shot, back in the game, perfect, good to go, right? So from there, went to the next few stages, shot really well over the next few stages. I want to highlight this particular stage, the buggy stage, the UTV, not because I shot well on it, which I did, but because I thought it was a really cool stage design. You know, shooting NRL Hunter type matches on flat ranges really requires match directors to get creative, and I thought this was very, very creative. So you shoot off the back of the UTV. I elected to use a single bag. I thought it was fairly stable for the target distances and sizes we were shooting. And then you run around to the front and there's a little crossbar there that you have to shoot off of. I knew I was going to need some rear support for that. Worked a tripod. As you can see, when I deployed the tripod evenly, and I put that leg in the UTV with me because that's where I needed to get to build the position. The tripod was all wonky. I ended up just adjusting it, sliding it, making everything work and getting my hits. These inverted style of tripods are really great for that. I'm using a 2-veg tripod. I love it. I paid full price for it. This isn't an endorsement. I'm just saying it's a great piece of kit. And the more you practice with it and the more familiar you are, the more it is really an essential tool in your bag. An essential tool in your bag.
Try.
Shoot well on that one, shoot well on the next couple stages, and then I get to this stage, the deer stages, and this one was just a tough stage. And the reason I'm sharing this one is there's a couple lessons to be learned on this particular stage, and I'll let you get to that here in a second. So it's 4 deer shoulder mounts, a pretty good distance. I want to say 600 to 800 yards or something like that. I can't remember the ranges. And they're on really tall T-posts, so it was hard to get a good range on them, and you couldn't get to the base of the T-post, which is what I like to do for ranges, because there was a small knoll in the way. In addition, that small knoll, the targets were hovering just above that small knoll. It had been raining for several days, and then we had a bright sunny day that was pretty warm, so the humidity and the mirage was just off the charts. It was really hard to range. So in hindsight, there's a berm, as you can see here, that I could have ran over to and got up on top of and ranged from there and then come back and shot. Or even shot from there was part of the rules too in this particular stage brief. So I get down, and here's something that I did that I thought was very smart, was I get down, I get on target 1, and I count target 2, target 3, target 4, and then from target 4, I go back and break my first shot. Boom. Yep, wrong target. So I screwed that up. Immediately shift to target 1, get a second round impact on that. I know my wind call is really good because I've already tested it. First round impact on target 2. And then 3 and 4, I had some ranging issues. I had some elevation issues. I don't think I ranged the targets properly. It was just a really tough stage to use your rangefinder on. I thought it was well designed, and it really made you think. And apparently I didn't. So in hindsight, what I should have done was found target 4, found target 3, 2, 1, and then stayed there and engaged target 1. Or if I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, count all the way back 4, 3, 2, 1, because when I shifted, all I had was target 2 in my scope and it looked the same. So that's a mental mistake there. The rest of day 1 was kind of up and down, a good mix of stages, including this one here, the dump truck. As you can see, there's like 2 inches of mud and another 3 inches of water on top of it. And I was shooting, I was just hearing my brass plop into the mud and muck and knowing that those pieces of brass were gone. Luckily, I only needed 4 shots, and I managed to save, I think, 1 piece of brass. But another cool, I thought it was a really cool stage just based on how the targets were laid out and hid, which I don't really do a good job of showing in this video. So day 2, after getting a good night's sleep, I really said, hey, I'm going to focus on getting this Impact 4000 working, because it was not. I tried it a couple times. It was just giving me really bad data, and I didn't know why, and I'm in the middle of a match, which is not the best time to sort this out. So I just kind of abandoned it for a little bit and just used my binos. After day 1, I went back to the 0 range and checked the 0 of the laser. For those of you that aren't familiar, Vortex is a really cool thing. They give you some reflective tape, and you can put it on your target and you can set it. So what you do, for me, my impact is 3 inches above the center line of my scope. At 100 yards, you can either put 3 inches above or know that it's like 0.75, 0.8 in your scope. And when I went and put my scope, the laser was way off, like 4 mils off. I figured I just torqued it wrong or whatever, retorqued it down, re-zeroed it, shot day 2. So day 2, again, I'm just focusing on using the laser, focusing on like fundamentals, focusing on like having a good time, relaxed. I know I'm not in contention because after day 1, I think I was down like 15 or 16 and the leader was down like 3. I know, you never give up on a match. Sorry, Francis. Sorry, Dad. Anyway, stage 1 of day 2, right away, mental mistake. First round impact on target 1, first round impact on target 2. Okay, we're off and running. Shift positions, forget to dial back down. Miss. Damn it.
Oh,
Fix
you
my dope,
idiot.
get the hit, move on. This happened probably 3 or 4 times that day. Here's another example of it happening here on a stage a couple stages later. Shoot impact on target 1, impact on target 2, move positions, don't dial down, don't catch it. Missed twice before I realized I screwed it up. Have a little cussing session at myself there.
What an idiot.
Not cussing, but whatever. And that was kind of an indication of how my day 2 went. But back to the laser. So this stage here, prone, long range stage, prone and modified prone. This is where I really figured out what I had been doing wrong, but it took me watching the video to do it. For those of you that are watching the video, you see I get the range with my binos, and then I get up on the prone table, I dial my dope, and I range, and it gives me a number that's way off. And at this point, I've completely abandoned the Impact 4000. I'm like, this thing's broke, it's not working, you know, whatever, it's lost its zero. The reality is, for those of you that don't know, as soon as you dial on your dope for a weapons-mounted laser rangefinder, you are now changing where you are aiming that laser and is no longer giving accurate data. When you range, you have to be on 0. That way it's in line with your scope. Because when you start dialing down and then you bring that to your target, now you're shooting way over what you think you are. So yeah, the Impact 4000 wasn't giving me good data because the operator was kind of being an idiot. Yes, it comes down to just being new. I should probably be a little kinder to myself, but you guys were thinking it anyway. And it just comes down to not knowing the thing. Well, I find all this out later, and this is where we get to like the win of all of this, right? Like, yes, it was a disastrous match. Yes, it's one of the worst NRL Hunter performances I've ever had. There's not a single thing that I could have done that would have fixed, or like if a stage had went better, it would have helped my score. Like, it was just a disaster, kind of start to finish. The takeaways from it, though, on my trigger presses were pretty good. When I had good data, I shot really well. And figuring out what the problem was, both with my chassis setup and the Vortex, was invaluable moving forward to Africa. And I'll get to that in a second. So the fix to the Impact 4000. Any mount that has a diving board that attaches with screws introduces a failure point or a vibration point that can shift the zero of the laser. The Impact 4000 in particular makes it very, very, very stressful and demanding on your scope because it's 16 full ounces. It's a full pound of weight, and that's a lot to hang out on the end of a diving board that's attached with screws under recoil. It's just acting like a tuning fork, and your zero will shift. One of the things that helps mitigate this, and it does not fix it completely, like this is not the perfect solution, is talking to my military buddies, talking to some guys that know, called Nick Laufenberg at Vortex, who's very helpful, was I bedded the diving board to the mount. I took some JB weld, completely bedded the diving board to the mount, and it really, really helped. So the zero shift I got after day 1 was like 4 mils. When I did that and went out and shot and tested it before Africa, now my shift is only like 0.2 or 0.3. The solution to this is a mount with the diving board into the cap. All that is like one integral beefy piece. And ideally that cap that diving board is working off of would have kind of a very, very, very secure mount system to it, like 3 or 4 screws in the ring cap instead of just like 2. That is the solution to that. So guys, if you've made it this far, thank you for your fortitude and your perseverance. It's a long rambling video, I know. Hopefully some of you watch this and you don't repeat my mistakes. Make sure your stuff's set up before you ever go. That's step 1. Don't try new stuff at a match. I know that I know this and I know you guys know this, but apparently I didn't learn it well enough. And then the takeaway that I have from this match is, yes, it was terrible, but in the end, it's kind of a win because it really set me up for success to go to Africa, and I had a very successful trip to Africa in both the match and the hunt, and I look forward to sharing those with you guys very, very soon. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you out there. Again, we never take the position that we're the pros. You should do everything that we do. We're just trying to help share our experiences. And that means sharing the good with the bad. Or with the bad. And this was definitely bad. So hopefully it helps some of you guys out. Looking forward to the Africa videos, and see you soon.
Blue arrow. Blue arrow denotes where the target placard is.
That's a really good word.
It points directly to it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's excellent vocabulary.
Thank you. I try.
All right.
Mr. and Mrs. Woolley.
Swell up on me.
Are you getting ready for the race? Is that what it is?
What race?
The race
You
you're going
guys
to
were
lose to
gonna
me?
race.
I was ready for that yesterday. I couldn't find you, bro. I was over there hanging out. All right, boss.
You better put those things in 4x4. You're going to race.
I don't need to, bro. I'll show you something. Remind me to show you something later.
All right.
Okay. But
Let's focus on what we're doing. All right.